A key scene in episode 3 of True Detective, Night Country, the eerie fourth season of HBO's anthology crime drama, makes a reference to Mrs. Robinson, but who is Mrs. Robinson and what does the line mean? The third episode of True Detective, Night Country, simply titled Part 3, explores the shared history between Jodie Foster's Chief Liz Danvers and Callie Reese Trooper Evangeline Navarro while the main investigation continues. The episode was met with mixed reviews due to its overstuffed cast and lack of overall plot development. During an argument between Navarro and fellow cop Hank Pryor, played by John Hawkes, in True Detective, Night Country Episode 3, Danvers steps in to break it up. When Danvers threatens Pryor with a negligence report, Pryor jokes that he should file his own report on Danvers for playing Mrs. Robinson with my kid, a nod to Danvers' close working relationship with his son Peter. Peter looks confused by the reference. Later on, when Peter asks, "Who is Mrs. Robinson?" Danvers just ignores the question. So, who is Mrs. Robinson? True Detective's Mrs. Robinson line is a reference to The Graduate. Benjamin looks at Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate. Pryor's line from True Detective, Night Country about Danvers playing Mrs. Robinson with Peter is a reference to a character in Mike Nichols' coming-of-age classic The Graduate. Dustin Hoffman stars as Benjamin Braddock, a young college graduate trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life, opposite Anne Bancroft as Mrs. Robinson, Ben's parents' middle-aged friend, an unhappily married woman who seduces him. Pryor's line accuses Danvers of trying to seduce the much younger Peter, much like Mrs. Robinson does in the movie. Why Pete's father accuses Danvers of being a Mrs. Robinson. John Hawkes as Hank in True Detective Night Country. Thankfully, there's no suggestion that there's any truth to Pryor's scandalous accusation. It seems as though Danvers' working relationship with Peter is nothing more than that, but Pryor blurted out that accusation in the heat of an intense argument. The insinuation that Danvers is working so closely with Peter in an attempt to sleep with him is clearly designed to annoy Danvers and get a rise out of her, which is something that Pryor seems to know how to do pretty well. The earlier episodes of True Detective, Night Country have already established Danvers' reputation for sleeping around, including a handful of affairs with married men. With the Mrs. Robinson line, Pryor seems to be building on Danvers' reputation for promiscuity in an attempt to really hurt her, which helps to show how much of a jerk he can be. Danvers and Pryor were already in conflict with each other, but this reference to The Graduate took that rivalry to the next level.